Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up.
All that jam. A lighthearted look at the weekend jam bands.
Where we break down the jam scene's biggest stories,
Talk new bands
upcoming tours.
and show reviews. A little laughing, some hot takes, and an always positive message for the community.
Week of June 12th, 2023.
Welcome back. We are in graduation season. My youngest graduated the other day, and it's her birthday, and she is turning 17, and we are just over the moon with that. Dead and Company is tearing up the East Coast, while a jam band summit is going on in Colorado with Giz, Goose, and Trey all spending the weekend out west. Meanwhile, Amanda snuck out to the right coast for a little DJ Logic and Neil Evans. How
You
are you
know
doing,
it.
Amanda?
I am doing so great. And listen, congrats to you for that graduation, birthdays, Geminis. This is good time of year.
So, how was DJ Logic and Neil Evans? Tell us the story.
Oh, fantastic. Great energy, incredible venue. Out here at Park City Music Hall. The place was bumping, and as usual, Eddie Roberts, the man in a jacket, even if it's 100 degrees, just brought it, band leader style. It's fantastic.
Very nice. And they're playing tonight where Brooklyn Bowl. Is there
They
another show?
are. I think this might be the last one on that little mini tour, as far as I know. But yeah, I'll tell you what. Logic just puts together those groups, whoever he gets, it's just like a really nice combination. So I was thinking back to when I saw him with Mono Neon and Jason Hahn, DJ Williams out in Denver right after the worst of quarantine. And I will always remember those 2 nights because we all needed it. So it was good.
So, what did the set list look like?
Oh, you know what? It was pretty much just instrumentals. Freeform.
Okay, very nice.
Yeah. And that's the best thing because it just kind of flows.
Yeah.
Could have probably gone for another couple hours, but as it was, I think they wrapped up around 2ish. But for me, Eddie's a late night guy, so I was kind of hoping the sun would come up.
Right. I hear you with that. I hear you. So, I've just been doing the Dead and Company thing, and I don't know if it's that I'm listening to them so much, but I've become so enamored with the whole thing. I've stepped in it a few times. I made a comment about Mayer being a better blues guitarist than Stevie Ray Vaughan, which I got amazingly like 100 people that I don't follow and don't follow me responding to. So I think Stevie Ray Vaughan has a Swiftie army out there or something.
I was going to say, what were the comments? Was there support for that?
Delete your account,
Oh, shit.
no, that kind of thing,
Okay. Yeah.
Just
Gotcha.
and nobody wants to hear my reasoning, and I'm not really going to go into it, but I'm not a Stevie Ray Vaughan fan, and I feel like Mayer, what he does, I've never listened to Mayer solo, so I cannot tell you what goes on there, but listening to him with the Dead, and he takes so much of Jerry, but he also, there's the Elmore James in there, there's the, last night they did Smokestack, there's the Howlin' Wolf. He appreciates those guitars too, where Garcia never did. Garcia played a shuffle blues. He played it like Jerry did. It wasn't ever straight, Mayer plays it straight. So
He does. And I just think that, no matter what he does, because of the entry point for a lot of people to John Mayer, I don't know if some people will ever really see him for like the true student of music that I think he is.
right, I was told it's sorority girl blues,
Oh,
but
that's a
then
new one.
and my response was, well, then Stevie Ray Vaughan is BMW driver blues. I mean,
I like that.
if you want to go there, we're gonna go there.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
anyway, we'll see where it goes. People did not like it, and I appreciate that people like him and that he's I think dying did him a lot of good, just like Jim Morrison and Hendrix and Janis Joplin and Kurt Cobain. Where would they have been in 10 years? Would they have been able to sustain is the kind of thing. So
Yeah, you gotta wonder, right? I think that's a really good point because maybe not so much for Jerry, but those others that are so young, right? Like
The 27 Club.
exactly, yeah. And
So
as it was just Prince's birthday a couple of days
yeah.
ago, that's a different story. But he even had so much left,
Oh my God,
to
he's got
give.
years in the vault.
Oh, that vault! One day I want to get
He'll
my
make
hands on that vault.
he'll put Tupac to shame with releasing stuff after he died.
I know they're all about it.
All right,
gotta
and
gotta get more merch out there.
you got to make that money. And with that, we're going to jump into
The top 3 stories of the week.
All right, Kevin, got some stories here, and thank you for reminding me and helping me realize that this first story is not a duplicate; it is a follow-up, which is a totally different thing. So, David Byrne, we're just going to kind of reach back here. There had been a musicians' union that had raised some pretty serious objections to his "Here Lies Love" Broadway show because they had planned to use recorded music instead of a live band. And so that became a huge deal over the last, I don't know, couple of months, almost a year. And so David Byrne and his people basically bowed to objections by this labor union and agreed that 12 musicians will be a part of the production. And that's scheduled to start previews on Broadway this coming week.
nice. Now,
So,
do
yeah.
we know if they're going to be like separate musicians standing there, or is he incorporating them as actors? Because I know with the American Utopia, the
Mhm.
people on stage were playing the instruments during part of the show.
Yeah, so I think that's what it's going to be. So they always had 3 actor musicians and a musical director in every production. But now they'll have, these other musicians actually coming on and playing a little bit. And I think that was part of the deal with the labor union, that they had to be
Okay.
like more active. But
Right.
yeah, so
Uh,
reminders of how strong unions can be.
it's making me think of Cumberland Blues, the Dead Company and the Grateful Dead did, and it's about unions, and it raises so many points when he's like, "I make good money, $5 a day, but if I made any more, I might move away." I think that musicians though need to have them because they
Mhm.
get screwed more than any group of performers, except maybe like spoken word poets. I've never heard anybody getting paid for doing that.
Nope, me either. But you're right. And I think, also, I don't want to generalize, but to be able to have someone or a group of people that are organized and can be consistent in what they're kind of fighting for, I think is key too, because
Mhm.
musicians who are working, traveling, whatnot, like that's just not realistic. So,
Right. Strength
it's
in
an important
numbers.
thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's gonna start, and that's about Imelda Marcos actually.
And
And
karaoke.
yes, and it was written by, I didn't know this, by David Byrne and Fatboy Slim. They
Right.
both
Yeah.
wrote. Pretty sweet, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. So
I'll check out
that's
the video.
Yes, so that's our first story. And then speaking of videos, I had heard about this just very recently and had a chance to see. Um, there's a video of Fuego performed by a high school student. And there's kind of a cool backstory to this also. So Trevor, I think Trevor Shepich, I'll say that. Yeah, so Trevor Shepich, who is a high school senior, he's going to go to Western Michigan University in the fall, arranged in 6 weeks' time a full orchestra to play Fuego at one of his senior orchestra performances. And he plays guitar, so he was shredding over on the side of the stage. And it was a masterful job. The article's great. It says that he had no idea basically how complicated that one was going to be, but he did it and it sounds fantastic.
Nice. All right. Well, I have not checked it out, and we're going to have the link down in the show notes. So make sure you go over and check it out. Now, is this something that is going to appear again? Did it say anything else about it, or was it just, hey, this is my senior piece? This is
That's
what
what
I'm
I'm
doing.
thinking. Although, so Trevor had kind of had some other cool things happen in terms of his ability to play music really well. So Billy Strings had him up on stage at a Louisville show, I think sometime in the last year. And
Talking
so,
torches here.
yeah, exactly right. So yeah, so there's like your latest potential torchbearer. So somebody to watch out for, maybe too. Who knows what
Right.
he's going to be doing? Story three. Okay, yeah. So Kevin, this last one is a story, but I think it's also more of just local happenings. So in Colorado, which I missed, that Trey Anastasio trio. I want to talk about the first night because I've been hearing a lot about this. So the story is premiere 6 new songs, this debut performance in Denver at the Mission Ballroom. And, there's a lot of people talking about that first night in particular. Not super positive. I think people were maybe expecting something else. But I'm curious, before I kind of get into the show a little bit, have you heard anything about that first night?
I've listened to the first night.
What do you think?
There is a YouTube video up with just the audio
Mm-hmm.
that someone recorded. So it's an audience. A lot of new songs. He's trying to hide forward people as something period or something about meteors. I guess he had equipment trouble. It seemed like that they were not sure. At
Mm-hmm.
times, it seemed like they were playing the song that they had been sent the tape of and learned, but they were playing 3 different songs at once.
Mm-hmm.
They hadn't found it yet. But I've heard the second set they kind of locked in more. I think a lot of people got thrown because it was a bunch of tunes. Like 2 of the tunes hadn't been played in 10 years. One of them was from the Beacon. There were 6 new songs. I guess 3 were Tom Marshall songs.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
so there was a lot. I saw people saying that they watched a bunch of people walk out. I'm like, how many times has Fish, September 90, just sticks out at the wetlands when they introduce Stash and Magilla and all kinds of things. You have to take it in a historical context. People are going to look back and be like, wow, that was great. Rusty, not together at all in the first set, but you expect that. That's what you're paying the money to see, is the
Yeah.
warts.
Yeah. Well, that's what we think. I don't know though if everybody feels that way. I
Probably
think
not.
people just want to go and see the stuff that they want to hear, and when they don't get that, I think people are actually really spoiled,
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
so
and lately Trey has been Fish.
yeah.
He plays a bunch of Fish tunes, and this was not that. And I've been clamoring for go back to 2001, 2002, where it was a bunch of, he was playing the whole new Trey album and no Fish at all. So I can lean towards this a little bit. I
I'm
think that they
down.
need time, though.
Well, I think that's what it is. I like Monsters. That was a debut, right?
Yes, that was a debut. The Well, I think, is going to make the jump to Fish.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Marshall Anastasio
I
one.
could see
The
that.
one in the one in the first set that I can't even think of the name right now was a Marshall Anastasio tune that I didn't think Tom would write
Mhm.
lyric to.
Oh, that's right.
But
Was that Where They'll Find Us?
yes, Where They'll Find Us. I was like, really, that's a Tom Marshall lyric, but it sounds more like an Eckhart Tolle Trey kind of thing.
Oh, I like that too. That could work. Yeah, no, and I saw Young Rai Rai's write up on Jambase. And I think he's right, though. It did have that Makasuba policeman kind of feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
I could get with that. So there's like good moments in there, but I just feel like people are going to show up. It's Denver, it's a mission. They're either thinking that it's
Right.
going to be Tab, maybe, or just, something that's more familiar. But
Or the trio they heard, or from back in 21 when everyone had COVID and they played those few shows, and I guess as a 4-piece.
that's
But
right.
I
It
mean,
was.
if they were expecting a 3-song, 4-song second set that was 3 Fish tunes and
Mhm.
first tube, you know.
Right. Well, they also wanted Steam to probably be, 30 minutes long.
Mm,
So just 8 minutes, not good enough.
right, exactly. So that's where we are with that.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. I don't see this as being a thing that he's going to tour much. I think that this was completely set up to try these tunes out. My question is, what are people going to do all summer when every night there's one or two new songs every night?
We're just gonna have to deal
Yeah, they're going to have to deal with it.
one
It's
way
going
or
to make for
another.
a long Dix. I will be
Yeah.
at Dix, but it's going to make for a long Dix if that's because we'll get them all over 4 nights at Dix.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think you have to kind of go in expecting that, but also you and I have a certain mindset, and I totally get that not everybody feels that way about it, but that makes me even more excited, actually. Not that I'm
I'm
trying
going
to
to
rush
roll.
time.
Right, I'll probably roll the dice, and if Sunday comes up and they haven't done all the new songs yet, I might not even go because it'll be a whole set of the new songs.
Just go hang out in the lot.
Right, exactly.
Nothing wrong with
Sell my
that out
ticket,
there.
hang out in the lot.
Yeah.
There you go. Very nice. All right, so um, we have Kuh Nives coming up. We, put out something about their origin before. They did summer camp. We haven't talked to them since they were at summer camp. We would love to do that, but we sat down with them and we got into a little bit of their musical backgrounds and the influence that they had on what they do in this first clip coming up. And the second clip, we got into the fact that they play instrumental music and the fact that what are the challenges with that? Because I think a question we like to ask Amanda is, does that affect how many people you get showing up without the words?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's always an interesting response. I feel like we hear similar responses, and I know we'll get to this in a second here, which is, this is what we do, but we also realize that not everyone is going to come out for that, you
Right,
know.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. All right, so let's check that out and we'll see you on the other side.
When you were talking about just all the different genres that weave their way into your songs, which I definitely hear, and I personally love that. Like, does that come from musical curiosity, or do you each have different backgrounds of music that you love, like, or a combo?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. We're all very complex in that way. Um, where I don't know what. Maybe you can help me out here. Is it a Venn diagram where there are overlapping
Yeah.
circles?
Yep.
I thought I was hoping that you were smarter than I was, and you could you
I was an
you
English
knew
teacher, so
exactly.
I have to know that.
Perfect. That's amazing. That's kind of how I would describe it. Is that we're each person is our own circle and we overlap, so we all have similar interests, but we also have totally different interests. When it comes to just, I mean, life in general, but also music, like we're discussing now. I know for a fact that Pup and I are both classically trained. I know that Brett, he has some traditional instruction under his belt as well, but I think part of his kind of I don't want to say necessarily self-taught, but his approach to his instrument is very unique, and that kind of helps with his unique style of writing and composing.
Mhm.
And I myself, as a drummer, being classically trained, grew up with a rudimental background, and the whole thing with jazz band and marching band, and then I went into wind symphony and orchestra stuff, and Pup was in orchestra. But at the same time, we were doing that classical stuff. We were all playing music on our own in our own garage rock bands or whatever they may be. But I think in that diagram where we all overlap are similar interests, which, yeah, we all love jam bands, but outside of outside of the jam band stuff, it's like Pup may really like some darker, heavier type of stuff. I also really appreciate the progressive side of things, the more technical music, and then maybe Brett likes something that we don't like, that's maybe more ambient or something. So we might bring all of those there, and then where our circles overlap, that's kind of what Kuh Nives is. It's
Nice.
all of those influences melded into one little melting pot there, sitting in the center of our Venn
Yeah.
diagram.
That's like an intersection. Like, do you all? So how does that work live? Because I know you have the live album that you would put out. Does it just kind of, because you've known each other for so long? Does that just kind of happen at this point, or like who's leading? Is there kind of a process for figuring that out?
That good question. I think sometimes some stuff just happens. But yes, thank you for mentioning. We did just recently release a live album. It's more of like a live compilation, from our shows last year where we kind of went through and we picked out a couple jams that we thought were cool. So we threw them all together, and then just released it. So that's available everywhere you stream or steal music. Where it's out there. In addition to our other studio albums, yes. But as far as it goes live, um, we've been playing together for so long that I think it it's almost like, especially with Pup and I, we kind of just like feel each other. I mean, like sometimes after a show, I might sit there and think it's just like, man, I didn't hear Pup at all that whole night. I didn't hear anything unless he does something that really sticks out. But yeah, it's tough to say. I mean, as far as composing our music goes, being that it is fairly technical and instrumental, no lyrics or vocals or anything like that. There's no one leader per se. Sometimes I'll think up, or just it'll come to me in my subconscious, this weird mixed meter drum groove or something, and I'll just bring it to the guys, and they play around with it in rehearsal for a long time until we write something and then see where it leads, and then we determine, hey, okay, that's the next section of this piece. And then once we have a composed piece of music, we also know which of those areas we're going to open up for jams, and we'll have little segues out of, like, little cues out of the jam. So once we land on that jam section, we'll just let it ride. Just whatever happens live. Feed off the crowd, feed off of each other, feed off of the lights, uh, feed off of anything we're feeling deep down inside of ourselves. How well we're connecting. If we hate something, maybe that comes. I don't know. But no one leader necessarily, but we do have in the back of our minds how to get out of the jam. So we like to explore and be very improvisational, live in the moment, experiment, take chances, and basically do whatever we want, and hope that maybe the people come along for the ride. But also, we do have that cue that someone might have, so we know that in this piece of music, Brett has the cue out of the jam. So once he hits that cue and we hear it, then we know that we're going to come out of the jam and hit the next section of the piece. Maybe finish it off. Maybe we discussed beforehand that we're not going to finish that song that night. We're going to go into the next one, and just try and challenge ourselves to make that happen.
All right, Kevin. Well, I know we're going to get back into this interview here in a minute, but as always, before we do that, want to make sure that everyone is checking us out on social media at All That Jam Pod, and that's Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, allthatjampod.com, and then of course, not only this week's show, but all the other content that we have coming out all week. Any podcast player, you will find us, and make sure to check out the show notes where there are going to be links to everything that we've got. And we've got our new email weekly update too. Yay. Just
Which
coming
looks
out.
so fresh. It looks so
I
nice.
love it. Yeah. So make sure, if you're interested, sign up there and, give us a like, review. We'd really appreciate it. And, with that, I think we have a little bit more from Kuh Nives here, talking about their live album and some other things. So let's get back into it.
Interesting. Now, let me ask you. You do all instrumental. Do you find it a challenge? Do you see it as a challenge in bringing new fans in, or?
Yeah, I mean, as far as a challenge to play instrumental music, no, we love it. So again, going back to our little diagram there, instrumental jam music. I mean, we're all into it. So that's not necessarily a challenge because we feel it. That's who we are, and that's what we just love to do. But as far as finding a fan base, I mean, it's not like we expect overnight success, or it's not like we desire fame. Again, we're just three dudes who are playing whatever unique music we want to play. So if
Mhm.
people want to come along and enjoy it, and we certainly hope people do, uh, then that is fantastic. But yeah, yeah, it's tough. Maybe depends on how deep you want to get into this, and I don't want to sound like a
No, let's
pessimist.
get deep
Let's
into it.
go.
Let's.
Let's
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to sound like a pessimist at all, but I mean, there's definitely a fan base for it. There are definitely people out there who love instrumental music, whether it's instrumental prog music, like Animals as Leaders, or something like that, that's heavier, or the instrumental jam stuff, funk stuff like Lettuce, um, or Talk. I mean, there's definitely a fan base for it. It kind of depends on where you are, where you're located, um, in the world. I would say, obviously, if you're near a large city, there are going to be more people who appreciate that style of music. Um, but as it's probably well known by now, I mean, the music industry may feed, or more so feed, music that has lyrics to people. So that's just what they grow up knowing. That's just what they hear. So if they don't seek out music, they may not be, stumbling upon that instrumental band. They just hear the radio stuff. Radio kind of pushes music that's obviously pop, or with vocals, and that's what most people listen to and can relate to. But if there are those people out there who seek out music, then they'll find that instrumental band and stumble upon them, and those are kind of the people who, I would like to say, yeah, we're grateful for, and who may become Kuh Nives fans.
Right. David Byrne said that the reason that songs have lyrics is so people will pay attention.
It's got to be it. I was just having this conversation with someone else about, and again, I don't want to sound negative, but it's like you listen to a pop song and it's vocals the entire way, and I'm thinking it's got to be just because children who are being fed this stuff have a 10-second attention span, and they listen to 10 seconds of it, they get the chorus, and they're on to the next song.
Yeah. Well,
um,
and formula too, right? Like things that are formulaic, and that's not what you all do. I do have a theory about this that is not grounded in any data at all. However, as that person who I actually tend to prefer music that does not have a lot of vocals, I'm thinking about some of my favorite bands from way back when, like New Master Sounds or others that really it is truly about the music. I think when people who really enjoy that find a band, they're very dedicated to it,
yeah.
because they might be, I hate to say, not more serious music fans, but it's a different type of listening experience if that's what you are seeking out. So I totally get what you're
Mm-hmm.
saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, there's nothing wrong with pop music. And if you feel deep down
Mhm.
inside that that's what you enjoy, fantastic. I'm all for it. Everyone should listen to and love whatever they want to listen to and love. Um, but yeah, I think you nailed it there for sure.
So you mentioned that the live album is more of a compilation. Is that from shows kind of all over? How did you decide what to include in that?
Basically, just listening back to them and thinking
Yeah,
this one's a cool
looking
one. We'll throw this
looking for
one on
stuff
there.
to hit you. Yeah.
But yeah, we so much like many jam bands or bands in the scene, we're all do it yourself, so we We do the whole thing where we record our own shows, and then we'll put our soundboards up on. Right now we're just using Bandcamp, so every show we play, we're doing our own recordings. Brett does a really great job of mixing and engineering those, if you will, and then we put them up on Bandcamp. So after we play a show, within a couple days, we've got the live show to listen to there. We're also shooting our own videos of shows that we've been putting up on YouTube as of late. And since we do it ourselves, it's kind of like, we'll bring a number of cameras, and whatever we can make work, we make work. And then Brett syncs the audio up to the cameras, and we'll put it up on YouTube. So there's that out there as well. But the compilation live album that we released back in December consists of all stuff from 2022. And I think that's going to be a thing that we do every year, much like kind of like you see Humphreys doing, like the best of type of deal. So that's kind of what this is. It's just volume 1. This year will be volume 2. We just listen back to the shows and think something's cool, and we throw it on there.
I really like these guys. I like what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wishing them the best. We've had quite a few, Oregon Fairchild, them, and Disco, I think were all instrumental maybe also.
Yeah, and I've been
So,
seeing their name pop up. I think they just got some co-bills going on, some tour announcements. So it's great to see bands that we've talked to just doing really good things.
They will be on the Monday show sooner than later. This week, if you're checking out the rest of the week, we got Alan Evans tomorrow from Soul Live about the Blue Note New York City residency they have coming up this weekend. Wednesday, we got Tim Blum from Mother Hips. We got into how they ended up on American Records and how the Black Crowes were part of getting them on there, and what turned out to be good and bad, I guess, on some sides for them. Jason Crosby on Thursday about playing with Phil Lesh. I had to go with the Phil Lesh clip first. I was going to do the Jackson Brown thing, but I was like, everybody wants to know about how you did that. And our friend Matt Bush and Lou Faber from God Street Wine play into this story pretty good. So we got Ari Joshua on Friday. If you don't know Ari, you're going to want to know him. He's talking about, he has a couple singles out with Medeski and Martin and a few other people, and he also has something with Skerrick out, so you're going to want to check that out. And then Saturday we got Escaper, which are a space rock band out of New York. Will Hansa over on Rope-a-Dope. They are on Rope-a-Dope, their origin story. So we're going to do that, and it's going to be fantastic, and you're not going to want to miss any of them. So let's jump into this playing instrumental thing, and we'll see you on the other side. Do you have anything else, or are we ending? We're good if we're ending because we're at 22 minutes already. So
yeah, let's do that. That content is amazing.
And then next week maybe we can bring something back. Next week we have Big Something.
Oh,
so
right.
and
Okay.
Big Something, we're going to do 3 clips with them. I want to try doing 3 clips next week.
Okay.
So
that sounds good.
There we go. All right. Well, what do you have coming? That was fantastic. All right, that was fantastic. I mean, if you have not heard these guys, you need to check them out. They're getting their names out there. So make sure you find them on social media. Like we said, the links are down in the show notes. We're going to make it real easy for you. You got anything coming up this week, Amanda? I know that you're on the East Coast now.
Yeah, next weekend, there's a couple local shows out in Denver, some bands that they're getting their name out there. One of them is Desert Furs, who I've actually interviewed for Barline Shift. They're a Boulder-based band, so I'll probably check them out. But you know what? I'm kind of leaving it open too because there's so much music. Wait a second, Kevin, can I start that over? I totally forgot what day it was. Yes, so Thursday, going to be seeing Eddie Roberts, Pimps of Joy Time, Taylor Scott Band, and a couple others at Cervantes, and that is going to be a killer show.
Wow. Brian J., friend of the channel.
That's right.
He is Pimps of Joy Time, basically.
He is.
No, is this a benefit kind of show, or it's just a big bill?
It is just a big bill, like Cervantes does. And also, there are going to be some late night happenings at New Conscious, one of which is going to be with, I'm pretty sure, Neil Evans of Dopapod. So, what's happening, Kevin, is in the scene in Denver, Yep, the other the other Neil Evans. It's all that jam friends just everywhere.
It is. I tell you what, Colorado is just hot. Fish put them on the map, I guess, back in the early '90s. But everybody wants to be in Colorado now,
It is the
and
place to
everybody's
be.
got a friend in Colorado.
Yeah, it's one of those friendly places.
It is. And with that, I'm going to say, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long. I'll see you next week, Amanda.
Okay, thanks, Kevin.